the ladder. And the astounded Jacob was fearful, and he said, "Indeed, a God is present in this place, and I know it not. How awesome is this place! Indeed, this is none but the Lord's abode, and this is the gateway to heaven." There are two interesting points in this tale. The first is that the divine beings going up and down at this gateway to heaven were using a mechanical facility, a ladder. The second is that the sight took Jacob by complete surprise. The Lord's abode, the ladder, and the angels of the Lord using it were not there when Jacob lay down to sleep in the field. Suddenly, there was the awesome vision. And by morning the abode, the ladder, and their occupants were gone. We may conclude that the equipment used by the divine beings was some kind of craft that could appear over a place, hover for a while, and disappear from sight once again. The Old Testament also reports that the prophet Elijah did not die on earth, but went up into heaven by whirlwind. This was not a sudden and unexpected event. The ascent of Elijah to the heavens was prearranged. He was told to go to Bethel, the Lord's house, on a specific day. Rumors had already spread among his disciples that he was about to be taken up to the heavens. When they queried his deputy whether the rumor was true, he confirmed that, "Indeed, the Lord will take away the master today." And then there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire. And Elijah went up into heaven by whirlwind. Even more celebrated, and certainly better described, was the heavenly chariot seen by the prophet Ezekiel, who dwelt among the Judean deportees on the banks of the Kaba River in northern Mesopotamia. The heavens were opened, and I saw the appearances of the Lord. What Ezekiel saw was a man-like being, surrounded by brilliance and brightness, sitting on a throne that rested on a metal firmament within the chariot. The vehicle itself, which could move whichever way upon wheels within wheels and rise off the ground vertically, was described by the prophet as a glowing whirlwind. And I saw a whirlwind coming from the north, as a great cloud with flashes of fire and brilliance all around it. And within it, from within the fire, there was a radiance like a glowing halo. Some recent students of the biblical description, such as Joseph F. Blumrich of the U.S. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, have concluded that the chariot seen by Ezekiel was a helicopter consisting of a cabin resting on 4 posts, each equipped with rotary wings, a whirlwind indeed. About 2 millennia earlier, when the Sumerian ruler Gudea commemorated his building the temple for his god Nanurta, he wrote that there appeared to him a man that shone like heaven. By the helmet on his head, he was a god. When Nanurta and 2 divine companions appeared to Gudea, they were standing beside Nanurta's divine black wind bird. As it turned out, the main purpose of the temple's construction was to provide a secure zone, an inner special enclosure within the temple grounds, for this divine bird. The construction of this enclosure, Gudea reported, required huge beams and massive stones imported from afar. Only when the divine bird was placed within the enclosure was the construction of the temple deemed completed. And once in place, the divine bird could lay hold on heaven, and was capable of bringing together heaven and earth. The object was so important, sacred, that it was constantly protected by 2 divine weapons, the Supreme Hunter and the Supreme Killer, weapons that emitted beams of light and death-dealing rays. The similarity of the biblical and Sumerian descriptions, both of the vehicles and the beings within them, is obvious. The description of the vehicles as bird, wind bird, and whirlwind that could rise heavenward while emitting a brilliance leaves no doubt that they were some kind of flying machine. Enigmatic murals uncovered at Tel Gasol, a site east of the Dead Sea, whose ancient name is unknown, may shed light on our subject. Dating to circa 3500 BC, the murals depict a large 8-pointed compass, the head of a helmeted person within a bell-shaped chamber, and 2 designs of mechanical craft that could well have been the whirlwinds of antiquity. The ancient texts also describe some vehicle used to lift aeronauts into the skies. Gudea stated that, as the divine bird rose to circle the lands, it flashed upon the raised race. The protected enclosure was described as Mu.Na. To enter strong stone resting place of the Mu. Urukagina, who ruled in Lagash, said in regard to the divine black wind bird, the Mu that lights up as a fire I made high and strong. Similarly, Luutu, who ruled Enuma in the 3rd millennium BC, constructed a place for a Mu, which in a fire comes forth, for the god Utu, in the appointed place within his temple. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar I, recording his rebuilding of Marduk's sacred precinct, said that within fortified walls, made of burned brick and gleaming onyx marble, I raised the head of the boat Ge.ul, the chariot of Marduk's princeliness, the boat Zag.mu.ku, whose approach is observed, the supreme traveler between heaven and earth, in the midst of the pavilion I enclosed, screening off its sides. Ge.ul, the first epithet employed to describe this supreme traveler or chariot of Marduk, literally means high to heaven, bright at night. Zag.mu.ku, the second epithet describing the vehicle, clearly a boat nesting in a special pavilion, means the bright Mu which is for afar. That Mu, an oval-topped, conical object, was indeed installed in the inner, sacred enclosure of the temples of the great gods of heaven and earth can, fortunately, be proved. An ancient coin found at Byblos, the biblical Gebel, on the Mediterranean coast of present-day Lebanon, depicts the great temple of Ishtar. Though shown as it stood in the 1st millennium BC, the requirement that temples be built and rebuilt upon the same site, and in accordance with the original plan, undoubtedly means that we see the basic elements of the original temple of Byblos traced to millennia earlier. The coin depicts a 2-part temple. In front stands the main temple structure, imposing with its column gateway. Behind it is an inner courtyard, or sacred area, hidden and protected by a high, massive wall. It is clearly a raised area, for it can be reached only by ascending many stairs. In the center of this sacred area stands a special platform, its crossbeam construction resembling that of the Eiffel Tower, as though built to withstand great weight. And on the platform stands the object of all this security and protection, an object that can only be a Mu. Like most Sumerian syllabic words, Mu had a primary meaning. In the case of Mu, it was that which rises straight. Its 30-odd nuances encompassed the meanings height, fire, command, accounted period, as well as in later times, that by which one is remembered. If we trace the written sign for Mu from its Assyrian and Babylonian cuneiform stylizations to its original Sumerian pictographs, the following pictorial evidence emerges. We clearly see a conical chamber, depicted by itself or with an arrow section attached to it. From a golden chamber in the sky I will watch over thee, and it promised to the Assyrian king. Was this Mu the heavenly chamber? A hint to Inanna/Ishtar, and her journeys in the boat of heaven clearly indicates that the Mu was the vehicle in which the gods roamed the skies far and high. Lady of heaven, she puts on the garment of heaven, she valiantly ascends towards heaven. Over all the peopled lands she flies in her Mu. Lady, who in her Mu to the heights of heaven joyfully wings. Over all the resting places she flies in her Mu. There is evidence to show that the people of the eastern Mediterranean had seen such a rocket-like object not only in a temple enclosure, but actually in flight. Hittite glyphs, for example, showed, against the background of starry heavens, cruising missiles, rockets mounted on launch pads, and a god inside the irradiating chamber. Professor H. Frankfurt cylinder seals, demonstrating how both the art of making the Mesopotamian cylinder seals and the subjects depicted on them spread throughout the ancient world, reproduces the design on a seal found in Crete, and dated to the 13th century BC. The seal design clearly depicts a rocket ship moving in the skies and propelled by flames escaping from its rear. The winged horses, the entwined animals, the winged celestial globe, and the deity with horns protruding from his headdress are all known Mesopotamian themes. It can certainly be assumed that the fiery rocket shown on the Cretan seal was also an object familiar throughout the ancient Near East. Indeed, a rocket with wings or fins, reachable by a ladder, can be seen on a tablet excavated at Gezer, a town in ancient Canaan, west of Jerusalem. The double imprint of the same seal also shows a rocket resting on the ground next to a palm tree. The celestial nature or destination of the objects is attested by symbols of the sun, moon, and zodiacal constellations that adorn the seal.